Hey guys, welcome back. So if you originally accepted forbearance back in March, now that we're into May, you're getting close to your original 90-day forbearance period with your servicer or lender. Now, originally when forbearance was introduced from a lot of lenders and servicers, they were offering a 90-day forbearance plan that would cover you March, April, and May. So now that we're into May, you're less than 30 days from the end of that forbearance plan. So what happens now? That's what we're going to dive into today, because I received a call from someone who originally accepted that 90-day forbearance plan and has received a call from their lender to discuss different options. And I also have an actual letter from a friend of mine who sent it to me yesterday from Union Bank. They decided to do forbearance starting in the month of May. And so I have the letter to go over the language in that forbearance plan so that if you're considering it and not sure how it's worded, this is how they worded it. And also, if you've accepted forbearance but haven't received anything in the mail, this will give you some guidance on that process. So we're going to dive into that. But before we do that, I'm Jeb Smith. I'm a real estate broker here in Southern California. My channel is all about real estate, finance, trending topics like forbearance right now. So if that is of any interest to you, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. And if you find the content helpful, give me a thumbs up. So as I mentioned, originally forbearance options became available in March. And a lot of you guys have reached out and said, when I originally did forbearance, that was the only option and I needed to accept it because I had a loss of income and I was scared about the future. So I accepted the original 90-day plan. So what happens now? Well, I had someone who watches my videos reach out to me yesterday and say that they did exactly that. So they accepted the forbearance back in March and they were able to miss their March, April, and May payments. At the time that they accepted it, they agreed to make a lump sum payment in the fourth month, which would be June, which would require them to make those 3 missed payments plus their June payment. Well, they accepted it because there were no other options at the time. They were scared and needed some sort of comfort in knowing, what the next few months held. Well, now that they're within that 30-day period, they actually received a call from their bank as of yesterday. Now, I forgot to ask who the bank was, so failure on my part there. But as I get that information, I'll either put it in the notes below or in the comments. But they did receive a call from their bank saying, hey, look, you are now within your 30-day end of forbearance. Where do you stand with income, etc. And they laid out options, right? And so one of the options was to extend it for another 3 months. Well, I was going to say my client, but they're not my client. The viewer mentioned, well, what happens at the end of the 3 months then? Do I still have to do a lump sum payment? And they basically came out and said what is in this letter that I'm going to reference in a moment that I received from a friend, but they basically said at the end of those 3 months, we'll analyze it again, at which point, you have income back. We can set up some sort of payment plan. If you're not able to make that lump sum payment, we could do a restructuring of the loan, or we might do some sort of modification of your loan at that time. Well, it's still a little unclear as to what happens. And we've done videos with regards to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, basically saying that you're not required to make a lump sum payment unless you want to. So your lender servicer should be giving you options. So it sounds like in this case, this bank is at least giving other options versus just saying, hey, look, this is your only option. And that should be comforting to anybody that's in forbearance or thinking about the forbearance process. So keep that in mind in going forward. Now, at this point, they still have a loss of income, so they don't know where they're going to be at the end of that additional 3 months, which is going to basically put them 6 months out at that period. So that they'll decide at that point how they want to proceed. But, I'm going to get into that letter now, give you a little bit of information there, some verbiage, and you can take it for what it's worth. So here we go. I mentioned I received this letter from a friend of mine who just went into the forbearance period in May. So you'll start by seeing at the top of the letter here that it shows plan 1, 2, and 3, which shows May, June, and July, no payments are due. So the forbearance period is from May through July, and no payments are required. It goes on to say late charges will be suspended as long as you comply with the terms of the plan. This forbearance plan is contingent on your having provided accurate and complete information. At this point, they haven't asked him for any information, so It's really just going off of his word to ask for the forbearance. Now, it goes on to say that we reserve the right to revoke this offer or terminate the plan following your acceptance if we learn of information that would make you ineligible for forbearance. So he's had a loss of income. This isn't going to affect him, but you could see where people reading this could get scared, and or people that don't truly need forbearance, could be in a position where if they did require you to provide documentation, they wouldn't actually be eligible for it. But it goes on to say again that you agree that in the event that you make any payments during the plan term, we will hold those payments in a suspense account until sufficient funds are in the account to pay your oldest delinquent monthly payment. So if you can make partial payments, what they're saying is make them, at which point we'll put them aside. Once we have a full month's payment, we'll apply it to your account. Now, this is the part that was scary for him. It goes on to read that at the end of the plan, all the temporarily suspended regular payments will be due and payable. So basically saying in one lump sum, your payments are due. Now, if you didn't go on to read further or didn't really know all of the options out there in forbearance, that could present some problems for you, especially if you don't have the income set aside the savings set aside to make those lump payments all at one time. But it does go on to read that if you aren't able to pay all temporary suspended regular payments, please contact your mortgage assistance specialist at the number provided below to discuss post-forbearance options, which may include extending the plan, a modification, a repayment plan, or loss mitigation, retention, or liquidation workout, subject to qualification. Now, my understanding is that, if you call back initially or they call you towards the end of your forbearance plan, which, we talked about in the video here, they're going to give you initially an extension of a couple of months, at least 3 months to extend it. Now, at which point, you are at the end of your forbearance plan and they're not going to extend it. You have to make a decision whether or not you're able to make the payments in a lump sum, do some sort of repayment plan. And if you don't qualify for the repayment plan because the payment is just too much, you can't make those monthly payments either, then they may modify your loan. Now, my understanding is with the modification of the loan that they are going to require documentation, right? So if you are trying to modify the terms of your loan, whether they're extending the balance of it, adding it on, lowering your interest rate so that the monthly payments are lower so that you can pay it back, chances are they're going to require documentation from you that you've actually had some sort of job loss, income loss due to COVID. So keep that in mind when talking to them that, you may have to provide documentation in order to set up something different than that initial lump sum payment. So, again, this is from Union Bank. I don't know how the language is in other forbearance agreements, but I thought it would be helpful to actually see the language coming from a bank so that, if you're going into forbearance or haven't received your letter yet, you know what to expect. But there you go.
All right, so now that you've seen the letter, you get an idea of the verbiage that, I talked about earlier in the video and some of the language that you're hearing if you're watching other forbearance videos or talking to anybody about the forbearance period. Now, keep in mind, each lender is a little bit different and you have to make sure your loan is federally backed. That's one of the big things here, right? Is, the original CARES Act only provided those forbearance options for federally backed loans. Now, if your loan was with, if it was a non-QM loan or a jumbo loan of some sort and didn't fit into that Fannie Freddie FHA VA model, then those servicers, lenders don't have to provide you with the same options. So keep in mind, you might have to agree to something different at that time. So that's the scary part, because there are no actual guidelines for those people or any requirements that they have to follow. But, what I would tell you is keep in communication, let them know your hardship, let them know where you are if you need additional time, because, they don't want your home. As many people think that the banks want your homes, it is a process. The legal process, the eviction process, it is not as easy as just taking your home, right? So most of the time, they want to work with you to set up some sort of payment plan so that they can move on and continue their business as well and don't have to turn into a foreclosure shop. So anyway, that's where we are for now. As promised, I will continue to update you as I get more information on this subject. If you have direct questions for me, you can comment below. You can reach out to me directly, which a lot of you guys have, and I'm answering you. We're having phone conversations, etc. So I'm doing what I can to help guide you through that process. But again, if you need more information, feel free to reach out. As always, appreciate you taking the time to watch. We will see you again soon. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye.